Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got two stories. First up, we're going to review a quick video that was an interview between Anthony Pompliano and the BRD or Bread Wallet CEO Adam Traidman, and we're going to talk about mining also. This was the video that I had teased on my last video from yesterday. If you hadn't seen that, it goes over what Warren Buffett said, but what we eventually did talk about was just this first minute and a half of this exceptional interview. It was between Raoul Pal and Barry Silbert, and he is the CEO of Greyscale. And it was fascinating what they talk about as far as the future of Bitcoin, how it compares to gold, and eventually what's going to happen in the future. And when I listened to the whole thing, it just blew my mind. It is amazing, and we'll break it down today. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the market. So it is May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and it looks like Bitcoin's doing pretty much what Bitcoin does, staying in that $8,900 range. Market cap's around 248. Everything's pretty much stable. Everything except for this little gem, Digibyte. I do not own Digibyte. I do not have any bags. I have nothing with it, but I can tell you this: I tip my hat to every Digibyte owner because you guys held strong. And just a couple weeks ago, Digibyte wasn't even worth a penny, and now it's going up to like almost 3 cents. So congratulations, Digibyte. Remember, I've always said this, and I truly believe it: what's good for one is good for all. And as the water rushes in, all the boats rise. So if we can get this type of momentum in any type of project, hey, I'm super pumped. Congratulations, Digibyte owners. Fantastic work. Let's break into today's stories. So first up, I glanced over this and I didn't really think too much of it. This is from Anthony Pompliano. I don't know if you guys know him, but you should definitely subscribe. I'm going to subscribe right now, matter of fact. This guy's pretty good. And I've listened to Anthony Pompliano. He's been on MSNBC, Fast Money, really smart guy. He's got his own podcast and so on and so forth. But he had on Adam Traidman. He's the CEO of BRD and Blockset. And I was like, who the heck is that? So I had to take a look. What the heck is BRD? And BRD or Bread is this cool little wallet that you can download in the App Store. And it's pretty neat because I took a look at it. I remember it as Bread Wallet. That's maybe what people can remember it as. Now it's this BRD Bitcoin wallet. But it was pretty interesting, and I might actually download it because I see that you can send and receive cryptocurrency. That's free. And then you can buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrency with a credit card, checking account, cash, or other crypto, trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. It says it has unhackable cryptocurrency security, where you can store all your valuable crypto in a virtual unhackable environment, all for free. Your Bitcoin crypto wallet is protected on your own device, utilizing hardware encryption and Apple's security. I got to tell you, I don't believe that, but I mean, I could be wrong. I'm always thinking there's some kind of scam or some kind of SIM card switch, so I wouldn't leave it on my phone. But I think it's pretty cool that you can buy Bitcoin with cash and credit and all that good stuff. And total Bitcoin wallet privacy. No sign up is required. And BRD connects directly to blockchain networks, not BRD servers. And it says it's fast, 2 hours. So I will make something very clear. I just found this. I thought it was awesome. I'm not getting paid by these guys or whatsoever, but I thought this was neat, and I'll probably download it, and I'll let everybody know what happens. But so he is the CEO of that. He's also the CEO of Blockset, and it looks like they do enterprise class blockchain solutions. So if that's your thing, great. I'm not a techie, real big techie coder person, but if you are, hey, there you go. That's for you. Let's move on to the video. So it's just a minute and a half. And what he's talking about is power and mining and what's going to happen before the halving and immediately after. So let's just take a listen. And this is going to open up a whole can of worms, and it's going to let us branch out into a lot of different things. And it gets a little deep, but let's listen.
It's a winner-take-all kind of a situation. The whole way to win in mining is to have the lowest electricity costs, the highest power, most power-efficient miners, so that when the halvings happen, or when the price of Bitcoin goes down, you can still be profitable or at least break even while everyone else, or a lot of the others, have to shut down because literally every second they operate, they're losing more money, right? And then if you can hang on, the total network hash rate goes down and then the difficulty goes down, and then your percentage of blocks that you mine goes up, and you can actually make even more money than before the halving, potentially, if enough people get out. So that's why the strategy is best hardware, right? there's all this competition to go find cheap power, right? And, when I first got into it, you hear, it's this Kazakhstan or this Stan, right? Or it's this, new thing in Africa, right? And these, like, geopolitically unstable areas where, but it's cheap power. Where the biggest source of cheap power actually turned out to be in the world? Right in the United States. Arguably, I don't know. True, right? One of the most geopolitically stable places, at least from the perspective of like the power not going out, right? Once you're not maybe rolling blackouts in California, but anyway, and so there's a lot going on in places like Texas, in New York State, upstate from where you are, Pacific Northwest as well. Turns out there's a hell of a lot of excess energy in America.
And that's true. And it was interesting to hear about, and it makes sense, right? If you have really cheap electricity and you have really good mining operation as far as the miners, the actual machines, and you can keep that going, then you can beat everybody as all the other people just fall to the wayside. So the big thing is, of course, I see it as you need to get the cheapest energy you possibly can, and you need to have these mining rigs either be able to be upgradable or in some way that you can replace them on the cheap and not have to rely on some other third party. So this is going to get interesting. So when he talks about good old USA and cheap electricity, and that's true. There's a hydroelectric plant in upstate New York. Then if we look at Texas, world's largest Bitcoin mine lures new clients at Texas hotspot. This was interesting to me. SBI Holdings Inc. and Japanese internet service provider GMO are about to start extracting Bitcoin at the world's largest crypto mine located in Rockdale, Texas. And really quick, SBI Holdings, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they not have a deal with Ripple and XRP, using XRP? Tell me in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. So it's interesting to see them get into also Bitcoin mining. Plus, you also look at Bitmain. They are going to Texas, to Rockdale, Texas. And then finally, the big gun is Layer 1. And this is a quick article. It talks about that. That's why it's an odd that a crypto mining startup called Layer 1 Technology chose as its center of operations an empty part of West Texas. So they're saying, okay, it's in West Texas. Okay, great. Texas is by far the biggest wind power generator in the United States with 29,000 megawatts installed. And if the Lone Star State were its own country, it would rank 5th in wind power worldwide. It's pretty amazing. So real quick, where's Rockdale, Texas? Well, so Rockdale, Texas is between Houston and Austin. And, Dallas we have in the center part here. There's Louisiana. But this Layer 1, it just says West Texas. And I can tell you right now, I am in West Texas. I'm in El Paso for this month, and I'll be back in Houston later on. Well, depending, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I don't think that's really West Texas per se. I think it's more like if you would say Central. So I don't know where Layer 1 is going to be, but if it's someplace around here, okay, gotcha. But this is what is really interesting about Layer 1. So last year, Layer 1 received a $50 million cash infusion from its VC investors led by billionaire Peter Thiel, alongside Shasta Ventures and Digital Currency Group. Peter Thiel. All right, and this is the CEO, Alex Legal strategy is to make Layer 1 independent of any third-party suppliers or service providers. That way he can be certain that even when Bitcoin prices surge and suppliers hike their prices, Layer 1's economics will be insulated. That's why the company's manufacturing its own processors and outfitting its own containers in factories in China and Croatia. So just what we talked about, you need two things. You need cheap electricity and you need some ways to upgrade these mining operations or these miners. And what they're going to do is they're going to bypass Bitmain, apparently, because that's where a lot of these miners get it, and they're just going to produce their own as far as processors. Now, if I'm incorrect in any part of this, if you are a miner, please correct me in the comment section. Let me know if that seems correct to you, but that's what I gathered out of it. But here's the big thing. They're trying to use these or process these containers in China. So the problem here is that there's going to be a trade war. I mean, and it's going to heat up tremendously over the next months and years with China. And if you've followed anything as far as the geopolitical landscape, you know that our president here in the United States, Donald Trump, he is livid with China for a number of reasons, and I will not go into those here. This is not a political channel, but I can tell you that that a trade war is going to massively heat up. And what America is going to want to do is not have a lot of these imports coming from China, and they are going to either put a lot of tariffs on, or something else could happen. Not for sure. I will let your imagination run wild with that. Here's the good thing though. So if they're trying to get all these processors and shipping or containers from China, they're going to say, you're not doing that. Here's the great thing about having Peter Thiel on your side. You know who Peter Thiel's good buddy is? It's Donald J. Trump. And if Peter Thiel can be out there and be like, listen, Mr. President, this is what's going on with China. We need to beat them. We need to, have our own Bitcoin mining operation, and it's for national security, which is what I believe Steve Mnuchin was talking about at one point. I think that this could be a big boom for Peter Thiel and Layer 1. Now, this is just hearsay. This could be something else. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If that seems totally tinfoil hat and way crazy, or if it made a little bit of sense, let me know. Anyhow, let's move on to the day's top story. So this was a great video. It's 47 minutes long. I highly encourage everybody to listen to the whole thing. I'll link in the description. However, that's not why you're here. You're here for me to break it up and give you the most important pieces and nuggets. So what we're going to start with is, first of all, this is Raoul Pal. He is a macroeconomist. I always mess that up. Macroeconomist. And he has on his show Barry Silbert. And Barry Silbert is the CEO of Greyscale. Greyscale is the company that has 2.2 billion assets under management, has a lot of different Bitcoin trusts and whatnot. And Barry was a big believer in Bitcoin and bought it at $300. And these guys are actually laugh about it because they say it's how hilarious that, because they were big gold bugs back in the day. Anyhow, Barry is such a believer in Bitcoin, he actually put out a anti-gold campaign, and here's the actual commercial. It's quite funny. It's about 40 seconds or so. Let's take a watch.
Yeah, this is dead right. Why did you invest in gold? Are you living in the past? In a digital world, gold shouldn't weigh down your portfolio. You see where things are going. Digital currencies like Bitcoin are the future. They're secure, borderless, and unlike gold, they actually have utility. Leave the pack behind. It's time to drop gold. Go digital. Go Greyscale.
Aha! I got to tell you, I bet Peter Schiff's head exploded when he saw that. But anyhow, that's the commercial. That was just interesting. And then on yesterday's video, which looks like this, we went over in detail the very first part of this interview. And it was a minute and a half, but it went pretty deep because we took a look at price action. But basically what Barry said was, he goes, look, there's about $8 trillion of value of gold in the world right now. And what's going to happen is that Bitcoin is going to eat into that. He said, so let's say it's about 25%, or let's say it's 2 trillion. And we ran it through the market cap calculator where I said, let's say the token value is 100,000, circulating supply, let's say it's around 19 million. I know it's a little bit less, but let's just go with that. So the market cap right there is 1.9 trillion. So just in gold alone, you could see 2 trillion, I think, pretty easily. I think maybe even probably more than that. So if you think Bitcoin's not a good investment right now, I think you need to reconsider because that's kind of where things are going as far as gold goes. So that was the whole part there for that first section. But I wanted to move on and really expand upon what Barry was talking about. And when you hear these things and you see these things, it just kind of sticks in your brain like, oh, okay. Because sometimes we think about these things like, well, crypto seems like a pretty good vehicle, or it seems like a good investment, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these different things. But then when you take a look at and you step back and you see like, you're not in an echo chamber, but you're in somebody who like has another type of direction and vision of what it could be. It kind of expands your ability to see where this whole thing goes. That's why I like to watch these different videos from different people. I even watch Peter Schiff because I don't want to be in that echo chamber where it's just, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. I need to hear some other things. That's why I do always read the comments, even as sometimes as filthy as they are. But hey, it is what it is. So let's take a listen here here as Barry really expands upon how Bitcoin could do well if the economy collapses or if it actually does really well.
And so again, with gold as the in my opinion, kind of the number one use case, or digital gold, 8 trillion relative to 125 billion. I mean, for you to double your money in gold over the next couple decades, it's essentially it's a bet against the dollar, and it's a bet against kind of fiat currency. It's certainly my belief that Bitcoin would perform well in that environment, but really more importantly, if the world doesn't fall apart and if the value of fiat and the US dollar doesn't collapse, Bitcoin could and should still perform really, really well because you're investing in this new financial system, this technology, this community, this restructuring and rebuilding of the way that value moves around the world. And gold is never going to have more utility. It's never going to. It's just going to, or not, be perceived as this store of value that you put in your portfolio that would perform well in periods of financial dislocation.
See, and this is why Bitcoin is superior to gold. And people, when they talk about like, well, gold's been around for thousands of years. Yes, but you have to understand something about Bitcoin. Double D, triple S, and it moves. That's just my little mnemonic. And it stands for it's decentralized, it's divisible or dividable, it's scarce or actually finite, it's safe, and it's smart, meaning you can program it. And it's very portable. You can move it all over the place. So if you take a look at gold, what can gold do as what Bitcoin can do? It's not even a comparison. I mean, to try to move gold around, good luck. And then it's super expensive. And you can't. It's not smart, and it has really no utility. I mean, it looks good around your, I guess, your neck, maybe on your wrist. But gold has really nothing to it, just as a store of value. Now, will gold ever go away? No. Do I own gold? Yes, I do. And I think it's still a good hedge against everything else. However, do I own Bitcoin? You better believe it. So here's the thing. All these different gold bugs, they say, you should invest in gold, you should invest in gold. But in all honesty, it's not like it's going to go up that much. I want to show you one thing. This is from my man, Peter Schiff. I always pick on Peter, not because I don't like him. I actually like him a lot. I think he's a heck of a promoter. But you have to look at, what's being said here. So November 26, 2013, this is an article. It says, thinking of buying Bitcoin instead of precious metals? Think again. Peter Schiff explains why in an exclusive video. And the gold price was $1242. Bitcoin price was $684. And then March 27th, 2020, he says, hey, they've been saying that on my tweets for a long time, but they've aged very well. Thank you very much. And gold price, $1675. And Bitcoin price was $6650. So if you want to gain like 10, 20, 30%, over 7 years, then sure, gold might be your thing or some other stock. But if you really want to really take it to the next level, I don't think it's a really choice, honestly. But tell me what you think. Does that make sense? Or does that no, I'm going to stick with gold. And then moving down the line, now we start to talk about the big picture, moving forward in time, what is going to eventually happen. So let's just take a listen.
There's an interesting generational wealth shift that's happening that I think many investors don't take the time to think about or analyze. And so the numbers that I saw, there's $68 trillion of wealth that'll be handed down in the U.S. alone over the next 25 years. So 68 trillion. So the question is, as that value gets handed down from boomers to Generation X and Y and millennials, where's that money going to go? I would posit certainly that whatever it is in gold, that percentage is not going to stay in gold. Younger generation investors do not view gold the same way that my parents or grandparents did. I grew up, we weren't on the gold standard. I grew up in a period of time where we weren't in war and have to worry about kind of hiding value from the bad guys. And so, of the 68 trillion, whatever it is in gold, is it going to all go to Bitcoin? No, of course not. It'll go into FANG stocks and it'll go into Uber and things like that. But I do think that younger generation investors are open to the idea that what they have been told or what the parents have been told about the role that gold will play in a portfolio may not be right for the next couple of decades.
So I agree with that, but let me know what your thoughts are. Does that make sense that as time goes on and this there is a generational shift and money starts to flow from an older generation to a younger generation, that this could be one of those types of investments that will only gain in popularity and as far as overall market value? Let me know what you think, because I can tell you the demographics for this channel, we're looking at somewhere between, the bulk of it is between 28 and 44 years. So this was like the prime time number. Now, there's a lot of us that are older than that, myself included, and that's fine. So I'd also like to hear from your perspective. What do you guys think as far as what would be a good investment? All right, and the next part here is where we're going to talk about a little manipulation. So let's listen.
If you look at the biggest buyers of gold recently, who are the biggest buyers of gold right now? Central banks. Central banks. So what's interesting is gold bugs love to talk about how central banks are idiots. Central bankers are idiots. They fiscal monetary policy, they don't know what they're doing. Yet they run around and talk about how smart they are for buying gold. For the past 5 years, the largest increase in demand for gold has come from central banks. Well, when the stuff does hit the fan, what do those central banks do with their gold? Do they keep on accumulating, or are they forced sellers? Not even forced sellers. Are they going to use that value to prop up a currency? Or I would guess that they're going to sell off their gold before they start selling off their ports and their airports and things like that. Okay, so that if the central bank demand disappears, we know in periods of recession and depression that people will sell their gold, to buy food and fund their lifestyles.
Okay, that's pretty much it. So essentially what's going on here is there's a huge demand from central banks, and they're buying up a ton of the gold. They buy up a ton of the gold, that increases demand, and then all of a sudden the price goes up a little bit, and then people start going, hey, where's all this gold going? Oh, it's going to central banks. And it's just interesting to me that you have these players over here, and we know how good central banks are good at manipulating some type of monetary policy. That's just what they do. And it's just interesting to me that they are also manipulating gold in a certain way by supply and demand. I just didn't know. I didn't realize that was the case. Okay, so that's the basic part. Now we're going to move into the next part, and it's not that long, but it really did blow my mind and made me think of a lot of different things as far as where this cryptocurrency digital asset market is going, more so digital assets and non-fungible tokens. So what he's going to start talking about is eSports and buying digital land. Now remember, this is Barry Silbert, whatever his name is. How do you say his name? I always mess it up. He's the one that had at least the foresight to go, hey, Bitcoin's going to go somewhere at $300, and he stuck around with it. And now when he starts to talk about esports and digital land and putting in digital casinos and putting in digital advertising, and it's amazing. I really do. So I'm not going to play everything, just the next 2 or 3 minutes, and that kind of condenses all the information that he has. And before we get into that, let me just whet your appetite so you understand where we're all going with this. So as far as esports go, and I'm not a big gamer. I'm just not. I played Nintendo as a kid, and that was it. Super Mario Brothers was pretty much it for me. But if you take a look at global esports, revenues will grow to $1 billion in 2020, a year-on-year growth of 15.7%, up from $950 million. Globally, the total esports audience will grow to $495 million in 2020, year-on-year growth of 11.7%. So this is a huge market, and as time goes on, it'll only get bigger. So this is the type of thing that blockchain, cryptocurrency digital assets were made for, and it should capitalize. So let's take a listen.
Clearly, gaming and e-gaming is an enormous trend in the world today, and the younger generation of consumers are comfortable spending a lot of their time in gaming, and so what a blockchain enables you to do is create something that's called a non-fungible token, an NFT, which is essentially recording ownership of a digital asset in a blockchain. So think of it as a sword in a game, or gold in a game, or whatever is kind of the value, and then being able to monetize that or use it kind of cross games. So there's a lot of interesting businesses that are starting to
because this feels really tangible. I know it's not to us because we didn't grow up in gaming culture in the same way.
Yeah.
But seeing young people, I mean, this is a hugely tangible thing. A digital asset is a real asset to many, many people.
Yeah, it is, and the question really is: are the game publishers going to be okay with this? Because they make a lot of their money by selling upgrades and things within their game, and they don't want that value to be transferred, kind of like airline miles. So one of the areas that we have invested heavily,
I'll stop right there before I go on. But this is just something that I see a huge expanding market for. I mean, if you have these non-fungible tokens, you have these different assets you can buy. I mean, how many millions or billions of dollars can you have if you have just the esports sector that needs this type of tokens to come in? And then I've heard about a project called Engine. I've researched it very scarcely, and I know it is doing something with non-fungible tokens and the gaming industry. So that is one to watch out for. It was hard to make a big play, but I think that's a longer play. I'm not going to invest in it, but something to take a look at. So this last part here is where it really gets a little bit off the wall, but it makes a lot of sense looking forward. If you are one of those people who, and I think you are, if you're listening to this channel, you might be a futurist that just says, you know what, I'm looking at 5-10 years down the line, maybe 20 years. What's the next big thing? And I think this might be it.
one of the projects we invested heavily in, this is going to make your head spin, is something called Decentraland. So Decentraland is a virtual world. It's a metaverse, and it's a play on our hypothesis that in the future people are going to spend more time in a virtual world, and that virtual world will likely be kind of VR, like goggles. And so Decentraland is similar in concept to, if you remember, Second Life.
Yeah.
Okay. So with a few key differences. Number one, the land in Decentraland is ownable. So every parcel of land you can buy, and you can speculate on the land, you can build on land, you can lease out the land.
Is it not infinite?
So it's not. It's
Okay.
the supply is capped, and so that's the other big difference with Second Life. Second Life was infinite, and it was a little. If you ever I logged in a few times, and it was overwhelming. There was no urban planning, and so Decentraland it's a grid the size of basically Washington D.C. So you can own the land, and then there's an in-world currency called mana, M-A-N-A, that is tradable like any other digital currency. And so we have invested in mana, we've invested in land, and then we started investing in businesses that are being built within Decentraland. We invested in a company kind of building tools for people to navigate the world. We invested in, we're looking at there's a media business in Decentraland. There's a Vegas district, and so we invested in the Vegas district to help support the growth of that district. And so the hypothesis here is, if a metaverse is going to exist,
And that's pretty much the big thing right there. So when I first heard this, because I had heard about Decentraland before, and the first thing I thought was, that is so stupid. Who would invest into that? That makes no sense. It's just another game. It's like Minecraft, I mean, who cares? But again, it takes me a while to kind of get it through my thick head that now I get it. Now I understand why. So there is a finite amount of land. There is a push by all these younger generation as far as gamers. Once all these things are purchased, that's pretty much it. And of course, the early adopters are the ones that make all the money. So when I see about this, I'm like, well, I'd like to see what smart money is doing. I don't care what people say. I just care what they do. And it looks like this is what is going on. And I might actually be a part of this. Who knows? But the last minute of this that we're going to play really cemented it for me as to why this is going to work.
I didn't know how to navigate this thought process. I think Mike Novogratz had mentioned this to me as well, and I didn't understand this. And then I went to a friend's house, one of my oldest friends in the world, and it was a Friday night, and his son was in a room like this, a glass room, which was their TV room. But he doesn't watch TV any longer. He was playing Fortnite. Yep. And he had his headphones on. And I'm like, what's he doing? He's on his own. It's a Friday night. He's like, no, he's not on his own. He's with 30 friends. And this is what they do, is they get together online, and they're crossing the two worlds of the virtual world and the real world. So like, I used to hang out with my friends at the shopping mall or whatever it was, or on the street on bikes. They don't do that. They do it online.
Exactly.
these digital things have real value to them because they are part of that crossover of digital and real life. Once I saw that, I said, but what about, does he not get outside? I said, of course he does. He plays football with his friends and does all the normal stuff, but this is how they kind of hang out together. And it's actually made it easier because he's hanging out. There's a friend of his from America, and there's a friend of his who lives in a different part of England, and they can all hang out together. I'm like, I get it.
And wait until they have some discretionary income and they can start buying things.
Which he's doing already.
Right.
And that's it right there. It's perfect. It's a perfect thesis. Wait till he gets older, or he or she gets older, and they have discretionary income, and they can do what they want with it. What do you think is going to happen? This newer generation they grew up on it, they are used to it, and they're going to use it. It's just like computers back in the day. Like, my parents never had computers, but, I grew up with one, and then as time goes on, I can't live without it. And it's just natural for me. So it's the same thing here. And it takes me a while to get it through my head, but now I finally get it. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Does that make total sense? If that is a play that you want to do. And I will link the Decentraland website in the comments or the description, and you can check it out. But it's pretty, first of all, the website's pretty slick. You can just take a look at what it is and how it's all bought. You can go to the marketplace, which is right up here. And then you can buy any types of things that you think is valuable. I'm not going to get into this stuff. I have no idea what that is. But down here with the land, and remember, this is all in mana. So if you have any history knowledge, mana, sure. So like if you took like 19,000, let's take like 19,000. That's $600 for a piece of land on whatever district this is. And it's not like it's super duper expensive now, but who knows what it's going to be in the future. And again, who would have known in 2009, 2010, Bitcoin for pennies would be worth, $20, $100, $250,000, but that's what it is. So this is a very futurist and forward thinking video, but thanks for sticking with me. I think maybe it'll pay off dividends for you. So thanks for sticking with me through the very end. If you like those types of videos, there's going to be 2 more that's going to pop up on your left and right. And that is it. So thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you on the next one.